The next thing that we need to talk about are the components that go into every single essay that you're going to need to write. And this is going to be the case for every essay for this mod. It's also going to be the case for every essay when you get to English 2. They're just going to be adapted a little bit differently. And that'll be the case for any essay that you're going to write. So there are several components. And components are elements that make up something. So, if you are in the classroom with a substitute, do me a favor, put me on pause and see how many of them that you can name, just based on essays that you've written before. If you're at home, put me on pause and do the same thing. So the first one is an introduction. Every paper needs to have one, and in a different video we'll talk about how to actually write one and do not lists and stuff like that. So on the flip side of that, everything needs a conclusion, and we'll talk about how to do that too together in a separate video. So we need thesis statements. In every single essay, there is no exception to that. You never get to just skip one because you didn't feel like it. You always need to have a thesis statement. Transitions. Background paragraph. And I'm going to draw this little backwards P thing. That's the symbol that stands for paragraph. So as we keep going through this, I might use this. It's actually an editing mark. So there's a lot of editing marks that I used to use as a journalist and as an editor, but that come in pretty handy when I write notes. So that's what that stands for, is paragraph. And here it comes again, because every paper needs to have body paragraphs. So when you do the symbol with an S, that's what makes it plural. We also need ties to thesis in every paper that we do. If the paper is one that you're doing research for, so I'm going to draw a little squiggly, because these are kind of separate. So if you're doing a paper that requires research, so the persuasive essay, that's the very last paper of this particular class. And when we get to the stuff in English 2, and when you get to communications, and all those other classes where you're going to have to write stuff, you're also going to need internal citations. And a works cited, or a reference list, depending on what writing style you're working in, but they essentially mean the same thing. So these are all of the elements that every single paper needs to have. It is true that papers need to have formatting and grammar and proper sentences and punctuation and all of those other things that you guys might have thrown out there. They need to have titles, page numbers, things like that. But all of that stuff kind of falls more into formatting. So if you threw that out there, you're definitely right. We're just talking about the actual physical essay itself. So if you removed all of that formatting, what would be left? And these are the components that you need. So, put me on pause for a second. And if you're in a classroom with a substitute, I want you guys to kind of talk about what of these things on this list gives you the heebie-jeebies the most. Words that you don't know, words that you know but don't really know how to make them, or were never taught what they mean, or how to use them the right way. Usually when I'm in the classroom with you guys and you tell me, each student will tell me which one they have never heard of, don't know how to do, or something like that, I put a little hash mark next to it. The reason that I'm asking asking you guys to do that is because you'll end up seeing how many of you are worried or panicked or concerned or never heard of the same exact things. So in one of the videos I was talking to you about how writing is a process and you are not allowed to compete with somebody else in the room because you're all going through it differently. At the base of it though, you all have the same concerns and you all have some of the same going forward, the things that you might not know or are uncomfortable with. So if you go through and kind of talk about the stuff you don't know, stuff you've never heard of, you can kind of come together a little bit and realize that you're all rowing the same boat in the same direction.